Okay, you're welcome everyone to the Positive Alteration Podcast, where we talk about communication, public speaking, leadership, and the capacity to pass your message across, influence people, and become more successful in life. Today, I have a very special person with me, and we've been talking for a while, and it is really a privilege to have her here to share her wealth of knowledge and her experience, her story with us. I have here with me today's guest is the inspiring coach Tola Ayeni. She is an accomplished leadership coach, a chartered accountant, and a digital business strategist whose story is a masterclass in resilience, faith, and transformation. She's got over 30 years of leadership experience across financial services, coaching, and public service. She's now helping professionals to turn their purpose into profit while building a legacy of impact. Please welcome with me, Coach Tola, to the podcast. Tola, you're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to be here.
Thank you. We're really glad to have you here. I just dive really right in. Your story is one of transformation through adversity. Can you take us back to a defining moment, maybe after a personal or maybe financial setback when you had to find your voice again as a leader?
Yes. So I was in a relationship that wasn't going anywhere. And I decided to take a step backwards. And in doing that, I was able to re-identify myself, find myself. Sometimes you don't know you're lost until you have been found. When you're walking in the wilderness, you don't know that you're lost. It was when I was out of that situation, I started to recognize the signs of the fact that I had lost my voice, I had lost my purpose, I had lost my self-identity. I had lost so much in that process. And on top of that, I was in financial debt. So I had to retrace my steps and find myself all over again, create a purpose for myself. First of all, it started with me wanting to be the present parent. That was all I
Mm.
could think about, one step ahead of the other, get my daughter back into school and all that. And then once I got my daughter settled, it was like, now I have got to find something to do, and it's actually the way I crystallized my coaching experience. So I started to do the certification, and it was a journey for me. Coaching kind of helped me and saved me and gave me a purpose. And that is the reason why I'm committed to empowering people. That is the reason why I believe that the coaching process is one that brings about transformation. So that is my story in a nutshell.
Absolutely. One of my mentors would say mentorship. I'd like to apply in this case, coaching is the legal shortcut to success. Many people say, oh, there is no shortcut to success. And he say, hey, Stallone, that's not true. If you have a coach, you have a mentor, it shortens the process. So coaching
Absolutely.
is key. I appreciate you putting that forward and also bringing your daughter into the mix. The way it is our brain, the moment we achieve a level of success, it fires us to say, okay, so if I could do this, I could do more, and that helps you. You wear so many hats, Dollar. Like uh, certified accountant, financial background, digital business coach. How has your communication evolved over time?
I would say that I started life out not being a very confident person. But one thing that I knew was that I always wanted to be successful. So every step of the way, I felt like I was doing what I needed to do to succeed.
Okay.
So I grew up in the era where your parents say go to school and you say yes, ma, yes, sir. So I did what they told me to do, went to school. But along the line, I realized that I needed to differentiate myself. a degree wasn't just enough. So I decided to take on professional qualifications. Now, professional qualifications, they're good, but they weren't just enough. I needed to explore how to relate to people, the human
Mm-hmm.
side of things. And I would say that I stumbled through things. I stumbled through, when you say wear many hats, it wasn't all at the same time.
Yeah.
It's because I was kind of discovering myself in the process. And when I started to be a manager, to lead people, I found out that I had an impact on people. I found out that people listened to me. I found out that people wanted to copy what I was doing. I never experienced that before. I'm the third child in a family of four, and in a sense, I had no voice in my
Yeah.
family because I
True.
was treated like, oh, she's a baby. Last girl, she's a baby. So I started to realize that people were actually listening to me. Something
Mm.
that, I bring my daughter up in conversation a lot. When she was much younger, she wanted to be exactly like me. And I thought, whoa, okay. So having that impact on people that colleagues working together, I began to realize that there was a human side to management. There was a behavioral side, if you like, to management. And I started to explore that. And also the coaching experience has helped me to find my voice, I never used to, people who knew me when I was in secondary school, I never used to talk. I was like the one that would keep to herself type of thing. I just focus on my academics, get the grade so that I'm not in the bad books of my parents. But over
Mm-hmm.
the years, I've learned that communication is a key tool in leadership and in management. I've learned that human beings are an essential resource when it comes to building a business or even leading a team. So it has been a journey for me, and
Yeah.
I am really glad that I am discovering myself day by day.
Beautiful. Now, it's fascinating, really fascinating that you have within the short time we have spoken on this program, you have brought in your experience again and again, and I see that you often speak about your experience even before we got on this show, using your story as your signatures for someone who is out there, maybe a single parent, or maybe even if you're not single parent, male, female, but they're afraid to speak publicly, especially about their personal experiences. I want you to tell us, how did you overcome that fear, and what would you advise them to do? How did you overcome the fear of, I don't want to talk about myself, I don't want people to judge me, to the point where you can freely talk about your experiences, your feelings, and what you've learned from that, and how you crawled out of that and to the person that you are today? What would you tell that person that is afraid to speak in public about their personal experiences?
First of all, I would say that a lot of the fear that we have, it could be cultural. It
Mm-hmm.
could be what the environment has kind of placed on us. So when I got divorced, I didn't tell anybody about it. I
Okay.
think the only person that I spoke to by myself was my mother. I
All
didn't
right.
tell anybody about it. It wasn't good news, if you see what I mean. It wasn't
Yes.
something that I wanted to share and all of that. And in that time, I had started to coach, and I was very active on social media. And I was talking to people. I was talking about authenticity. I was talking about being open. I was talking about growth. I was talking about transformation. And at this point, I had been divorced for about 5 years.
Hmm.
And it hit me one day. It was literally in the middle of the night, around 12 midnight. It hit me. I think I was doing some posting. And it
Okay.
hit me that you're asking people to be authentic, but yet you are not authentic with them. And that day, I made a long post on Facebook about my divorce. And it was
Oh,
detailed. It was,
yeah.
I explained that the reason I hadn't talked about it was the fact that it wasn't good news. It wasn't like I was trying to hide it. People who were close enough to me knew, blah, blah, blah. And then I went into the story and I put it out there. And that day, people were calling me, people who knew me, and they were like, and then when I told them that it had been 5 years, they could not believe it. So that was the first step. And as soon as I put it out there, it was there. And you know what was also freeing? I had people come into my DMs saying, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting the
It's like
story
you're
out there.
saying you managed to say what they've been waiting to say for years.
Thank you
them.
for being vulnerable. A pastor called me and told me that this was the second time he was getting divorced. And that, he being a pastor, is like he can't put it out there. But that I don't know what I have done for other people. It's freeing. And I was, the response that I thought I was going to get, sometimes those of us in the faith circles, we can be very, judgmental. The kind of response I thought I was going to get, I didn't get that. People were thanking me for being vulnerable, being open, and being authentic. So that was a defining moment for me. I knew that people needed my message. I knew that keeping it to myself was not helping me, and neither was it helping other people. People were able to relate, and the number of single moms or people going through an abusive relationship that I've had to coach or help or support during that time, it has been amazing. People who don't even know my story, they just come to me because they feel like they can communicate with me. And it has been amazing. And I have made it my mission, my passion, whatever you want to help people in that situation. In our culture, there is this culture of silence, and it is terrible. There was a popular singer in Africa who lost her life due to domestic violence. And there was such an outrage and an outpouring of this, that, and the other. And that was another thing that made me realize that the culture of silence is not doing us any good. We need to talk about it. We need to help people who are in that. Do you know that in all the 21 years that I was in that relationship, I told no one about what I was going through? No one. The isolation is massive. So I began to realize once I was on the outside that there are many people who are like me, who are in that situation, who need someone that understands what they've been through to listen to them and to give them the support. It's not to say, oh, you need to walk out of your mind. No, 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 no. That's not it. But that they can even talk to someone and somebody understands what they're going through and can help them to figure out how to deal with finances, how to deal with the trauma, how to deal with the isolation. It's an amazing experience. And it has been an honor to be able to do that for other people.
Thank you. So what I'm taking away from this, in case listeners or viewers might be thinking, okay, so how can I do this? What I'm hearing is, if you find yourself in a place and you are unable to tell your story, find someone you can trust. Start talking. Don't keep it to yourself, and start sharing your story in a responsible and balanced way, in small bites. Because let's face it, it's not easy to share your story, especially when it has to do with you. It's a lot easier to share other people's stories. And when your story is not one of, whoa, I made so much, and it's not one about triumph, as it were, but you're talking about those dark moments when no one knew what was happening to you, what you've been through, or even what you are probably still going through. It's not easy to share. So start small, find a trusted person or people that you can talk to. Also, find a community you can attach yourself to where people share their stories. So it helps you to come out. Once you start talking about it, it's a lot easier to hear what other people say, talk about yours, find answers, see what you can use and what you cannot use. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to pull you away to John Maxwell. I know you're a Maxwell certified coach and you deal with so many people with different challenges and you help them. Would you say that communication, the ability to communicate effectively, is an often overlooked skill? And why is that so, if you agree?
I do agree. Communication is a great skill and it cuts across every area of life, not
Mm,
just leadership or managing a team. Or communication is especially important. You mentioned about John C. Maxwell, my mentor, and he wrote a book. He says everyone communicates, but not everyone is effective in their communication. There are certain skills that we need to embody even as we go on that journey of leadership. We need to know how to listen. Listening is part of communication. Some
mm,
people just want to talk. We need to know how to listen. We need to learn the art of active listening. What exactly is this person saying to me? And as a coach, one of the things we bring to the table is the ability to listen without judgment. So you're hearing even what they're not saying, and you can then ask questions that help to tease out even what they have not identified. Someone may have a limiting belief. I refer to money when I make these examples because obviously of my background. Some limiting beliefs we've acquired over time, oh, there's scarcity of money doesn't grow on trees. And, we've had our parents say no, no, no to us over time. And they are talking about money, and you can sense the limiting belief that is coming through.
mm.
Now, you want to tease that out. You want them to see what they are doing. So, why do you think that is so? And then they have to pause a minute and say, oh, well, yeah, I've always believed that money doesn't grow on trees. But why is that an issue? You're working, you have a good job. Why would you subscribe to that feeling that? And then they have to identify by themselves that, wow, that is a limiting belief. I never knew that I was actually sabotaging myself because of my own personal beliefs. Even though I'm working hard and I'm saying, oh, I want abundance. But subconsciously, I actually believe that, money doesn't come easily. So
Yeah,
this,
let me jump. Let me just carve something out because you keep it's something inside of me, and I just let me get so that you can talk about them together. You keep referring to where you come from. I know you are from Nigeria and you are in the UK. I want to really ask you, have you noticed any cultural differences in how leadership and communication or the public speaking, the expressing of oneself, how it's being taught or practiced compared for if you compare both climes because you've experienced both worlds.
yeah,
Does
there,
that make
there,
sense?
yeah, it does make sense. There are cultural differences, but there are also similarities.
Okay.
My growing up in Nigeria, even though my family setting was very, I would say, quite liberal, but that feeling of, oh, you don't speak until you're spoken to. When elders are in the living room, you make yourself scarce. And before they even say, oh, we've got guests, you're in the kitchen preparing a meal for them, and stuff like that. It's not exactly the same here. So when we come into positions of leadership, I mean, I've worked in uh big four accounting firm in Nigeria, where
Mm,
the partners, or some of the partners, I should say, behaved as if they were lord and master of the manor, simply because they were partners. And, this was even after I had lived in the UK for a while. And some of my colleagues, they found it very difficult to know how to relate to the partners that were coming from abroad, because we had projects that we were working with UK partners, we were working with US partners, but because of the way the local partners, interacted, they found it difficult to interact with this. A UK partner, would just come. There was a particular example, kneeling down beside a colleague just so that he could check something on the laptop. And that made the Nigerian colleague very uncomfortable that his boss was actually kneeling beside him. So there are differences, but there are similarities. And I think that with the way there is cross-cultural leadership and teams and all that, and the internet as well, some of those barriers are being broken down. People are beginning to see. And that is why even in places like Nigeria, people are more into entrepreneurship, they're more into influencing, because they have now seen that some of the inhibitions that the older generations had, they don't have them anymore, because now you're watching a Nigerian film and all the PDA is flowing. Those things would not have happened before. So there are some things that are being, I don't want to use the word eroded, but people are learning from the developed world. Some of the learnings, maybe some people may say it's not perhaps all positive, but leadership is leadership wherever you are.
Yeah.
And leadership is about serving. And where a leader is not serving, then there's another word for that. We say boss, and in Nigerian parlance, we say oga. But when you're talking about leadership, you're talking about service. You're talking about the kind of servant leadership that we're familiar with when we talk in places of faith. That is real leadership. When you're showing the example, when you're being authentic, it's not just about sending people on errands or telling them what to do. It's about you showing up as being authentic. That actually helps the people that you lead. It helps them to follow. People love a role model. I mean, growing up, I've had several role models. I remember my mathematics teacher when I was in secondary school. I remember one of my first managers when I was working in the bank. He was the one that introduced me to personal development. The very first Zig Ziglar book that I read, today I think he's the executive director in the bank. He gave me that book and he said, read this book. I remember when I was in internal control, one of my managers said to me, buy stocks. And I was like, why is he saying that to me? I didn't think it was his business. And he's late now, God rest his soul. But he made it a point of duty to kind of mentor me, even though I didn't ask to be mentored. So that is leadership, in my opinion. It's not about, oh, you do this and you do that, which sometimes people think that's what leadership is about. Leadership is showing good example. Leadership is being authentic. Leadership is being a role model. I can talk about my mom. I grew up, my mom was made redundant in her 40s.
Okay.
As a civil servant in Nigeria. She was made redundant and she never worked a day again. She started to do business. She started to do all sorts of things. And we worked very closely with her. When I say we, me and my siblings, very closely with her. So the passion that I have for entrepreneurship, the understanding that I have about business started way back then. I remember being a 10-year-old, one of those times when schools were on strike and I was at home and I was keeping shop for my mother. That's some donkey years ago now.
Yeah.
I
Now,
remember
now, yes, going back, of course, I experienced similar things. I mean, our parents, my parents would say clearly, it is not a good sign if you eat without contributing to the family. if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Contributing may not necessarily mean you go and work for money, but if there are chores to be done in the house, if there are things to be done in the house, you cannot expect people to do everything for you and you come and sit down to eat. It was a traditional, a cultural thing that was knocked into our heads. As I remember my father even doing some household repairs and all of that, and say, hey, you come sit here, watch me do this. Get me the hammer, get me the saw, see what I'm doing. You dare not go out and say you're going out to play and then they fix stuff and then you come back home and you enjoy the footage. It wasn't always pleasant for us. For me, it wasn't always pleasant because I wanted to be outside, be on the street, play football. But looking back today, it was really helpful. So what I'm taking from this is that our leaders, our parents, and even at the place of work, we've got leadership in different forms and shapes, and people communicate in different ways. I've come to I've accepted it. It was hard, but communicating even with my children today, I've accepted it that clearly we are generations apart. And then we live in two different climes. I grew up in Nigeria, and it was traditionally it was a more firmer place to raise kids. And then over here in the UK, the laws, the rules, the guidance, they're all different. And your children see these things, they see what is obtainable. So there's got to be balance in the way we communicate in the family, in the society, our places of work, and how we lead. You mentioned business with your mom. That brings me to the digital part of things. Today, business is going online. And Tola, we've had some conversations before now. You are so enthusiastic about the online space. Tell me about it. What is the must have for businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs that want to put their businesses online? Why is this crucial today? Because communication is also impacted in that space.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a digital world,
Mm.
and therefore a lot is happening online. Any business that is not represented online may find themselves becoming obsolete. You know, COVID did something for us. It actually helped us to recognize the fact that we needed the online space. Because
Sure.
in that period, during the pandemic, you know, we couldn't go out, there was social distancing and all that. And people started to think about ways of doing things differently. I know businesses that were started during that time. There's one, I'm quite close to the family who started it. They the mother of the family, she had been a caterer back when she was in Nigeria. So during COVID, her daughters, they have all girls, her daughters decided that they were going to be making puff puff and delivering it across the UK. Anywhere that Royal Mail girl gets to, they
Yeah.
could deliver. And that's how that business started. They were making puff puff in the kitchen. They were delivering it all over the places. People were buying it because it's some kind of comfort food. It's a lovely snack and delicacy
Yeah.
from Nigeria. I love myself puff puff. So this happened. So a lot of businesses have to have that online presence. Look at all of the high streets. Some of them close their high street uh, presence and
Mhm.
revert back to online. Why is that? Because when you have a high street presence, the overheads that go with it, putting on my accountant head now, the overheads that go with it, the rent, the bills, and all of those things, it's a huge amount of money. But when you have an online business, all you need is your phone and internet access. You need a product, you need a system, you need perhaps a mentor to show you how to go about it. And you can start earning money like from day one. The online space, the two things that helped the online space drastically is the internet and social media.
Okay.
Social media, when we started, it was just about, oh, I'm hanging out with my friends, my alumni from school, my family across the ocean and the pond and all of that. These days, social media is about business.
Social
People,
media, but sorry, Tola, sorry, excuse me. Social media is noisy. The digital world is noisy. You now, as a coach, I just want to drop this so you help us out. As a coach, how do you, what's your advice? I need you to blend the answers together. What's your advice to help people stay relevant in such a noisy social media, digital world? And how do you help people to to develop that digital voice without losing the essence? So this is a multifaceted question. How do people stay sane in a noisy social media environment? And how do they develop their digital voice without losing their essence? Please blend this with your answer of the importance of the social media space. I just didn't want to lose that.
okay. So social media is noisy, but
Yeah.
you have to identify your own niche. Identify your niche, identify where your people are. So, for instance, even simple things like skits,
Yeah.
people are monetizing that. They're making money from doing all of that. I saw a video recently of a couple, I would say a young couple, and he was talking about the money that he had made online. And he said what he did was to identify a niche. He's a person of color, and he wanted to showcase marriage within that community. So he started to make videos with his wife, and
Okay.
he's able to employ somebody to do their consulting for them. He's able to employ somebody to do their PR, somebody to manage their social media accounts. He's on Facebook and TikTok, and he's able to do these things. And brands are coming to him to represent them because they see him as a lovely family man. He and his wife, they're doing this thing. And all they do is create videos about their lifestyle. That's all
Mm,
they do. So it's about, even in the midst of the noise and the business, identifying your own
your
niche
niche.
and focusing on that. Where is your target audience base? There's so many social media platforms: YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, XYZ. There is Reddit, there is all sorts, Pinterest. Where is your own target audience? If you're looking
Mm,
for the older generation, maybe you want to go on Facebook. If you're looking for professionals, maybe LinkedIn is the platform for you. If you are looking at using what we call short form content, TikTok is the place to be. If you're looking at long form content, YouTube is the place to be. So you identify your niche, you identify where your people are, and you are focused. So there is a difference between the people who go on TikTok just to scroll through messages and have a laugh. Maybe it's their downtime after work. They pick their phone and and they enjoy the fun there. There's a
yeah.
difference between those users and the people who have a strategy. They have a content calendar of what they're going to post every day to their target audience. They have a product that they are selling. They have a system that runs behind the scene. So
Mm,
when people see their video, they want to take action. They take action, they're buying from them. Like I this June is almost going to be a year that I started using TikTok. You know, I'm of a certain age, and before June last year, I didn't understand TikTok. My
mm-hmm.
daughter was on TikTok, and I used to say, "Oh yeah, you people just singing, dancing, and skits. That's what TikTok is
So
about."
do you dance too?
I actually love dancing, and you
Okay.
see, you can use anything to actually market yourself. The days when I dance in my video and I talk about digital marketing, I get more views.
True.
So, hey,
Viral views
it
or
works.
viral
It
videos.
works.
Yes.
But when I started the digital marketing was when my mentor said TikTok is the place to be if you want to do digital marketing. So
Mm.
I obeyed my mentor. I took that advice and I opened a TikTok account for the first time in my life at the tender age of 58, 59. And I thought, what am I doing here? It sounded like Greek. They have all kinds of terminology, spam liking, ghost tagging, coins, this, that. And I'm like, woo. But I stayed the course and I learned what this is all about. And I realized that, hey, TikTok is not just a playful platform, it's actually a business platform. If
Yes.
you want to make money, you got to be there. And I
Mm.
started putting my content out. People who did not know me from anywhere are buying from me on TikTok.
Beautiful.
So
Awesome.
it's about identifying your niche, having a specific product, having a system. It's not just scrolling, 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 and also having a mentor. Because guess what? That bit about mentoring is important because we don't know what we don't know. And
Mm.
time is the only currency that we have. If you lose money today, you can make it back. But if you lose time, those of us that are of a certain age, we wish we could be younger. You can't make
Yes.
that time back.
True.
So
I
that is
want to,
it.
yes, I want to add a few things to this nuggets you have shared with us. I think it was Tony Robbins that said something about currency. I agree with you when you say time. But Tola, the question sometimes we also need to ask ourselves is, if I have time and I do not have the energy, will I be able to do anything? I have time to lie down. I don't have the energy, but I have the time. The only thing I can do is lie down. I cannot do any work. And what Tony Robbins brought out of that for me is that one other thing people need to consider as currency that's really important is energy. Do anything you need to do to keep your energy up, because without energy, you might have the time, but you won't be productive. You mentioned something about knowing your niche. It also takes me back to what it was. I learned that from Alex Hamosi, where he said, find one thing, one product. If you've not made up to if you've not made up to $100,000, I believe that was what he said. Find one product or service or offer, drive that on maybe one platform, because it is energy sapping to be on all the platforms, especially if you're a solopreneur, especially if you're doing everything yourself. You're
Yeah.
doing the videos, you want to know, am I using a post clip? Am I using CapCut? Am I using Instagram edit? Am I using this or that? And then how am I editing? So what about the reels that I want to do, the captions? You want to do all of that for all the platforms. It can be inundating. Then you want to also DMs, you want to outflow, inflow, you want to DM, you want to respond to DMs on all the platforms. Hard. But if you choose one platform, you become better at understanding that platform. You have one offer, you have one platform, do it for 1 year. He said, consistently do it for 1 year. One thing is going to happen, you'll get better at doing that. So that adds to what you said about choosing a niche, because that way it blocks the noise. It's hard to do away with the noise in social on social media, but that way you push yourself through a frame, through a funnel, blocking yourself, blocking the noise out, and then focusing on one thing. I think it's a good idea for entrepreneurs, and it takes a measure of faith to stay focused, even when the path is not clear yet. And I know you've told me that you're a woman of faith. Now, the work that you do, let's go over to women, Black women. The work that you do, your voice, how does this impact Black women? Women often struggle with visibility around money and leadership. So, how do you use your voice as a tool for financial empowerment, especially for Black women?
That is a that's a loaded question. So I tend to say that my niche is women. And
Mm,
the reason is not far-fetched. I'm a woman and I have gone through like different phases, being single, married, divorced, single mom. I have had a career in financial services,
mm,
transitioned into coaching and all of that. And these are challenges that women are facing every day. You know, you don't even have to have domestic abuse or be a single mom before you face challenges. You know, women go through pregnancy, they go through menstrual cramps and all of that stuff. Then they go through raising the children. And sometimes in our culture, women are required to raise the children more or less all by themselves, even when there is a husband present. I noticed earlier that, Stallone, you mentioned that your dad will be doing some repairs and say, you come and stay with him. I
yes.
have to say that, you know, God rest my dad's soul. I love him. You know, I can say that I was his favorite child, but I never saw my dad get into the kitchen and do anything. I never saw that. Maybe it happened before we were
In your
born.
absence.
May,
Oh, you were outside playing.
I never saw that. So, you know, going back to role model, the son in the family, he never saw his dad in the kitchen. Why should he be in the kitchen now? You understand what I'm saying? And honestly, even me, as I've grown older, I've realized that our culture does not actually favor women. It doesn't. It's not just because my mom is around now, and sometimes I just put on some of this Nollywood films, and I sit down with her maybe when I'm on break or something, and we watch it together. If you know the amount of times I get triggered by a film, I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I'm talking back at the screen and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? What? You know? So we go through all of these things, you know, even in the UK, right? We have gaps in our employment because we stay at home and look after the kids. There's no house help, there's no driver, there's no laundryman, there's nothing. It's we that do all of this thing. The man goes out to get the money, and thank God for the men who are responsible and they're doing their bit as protector and provider and all of that. But that
Are
gap,
you saying like me?
you can feel it, you can feel it in the black spaces. That gap in our employment, no national insurance contribution, is going to affect our pension in future. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So, you know, when people talk about gender pay differences, some people don't understand it. But those of us who are going through that part, we understand it. When we now come to pensionable age, even if we're the same age, man and woman, the man is going to get more than the woman because the woman was at home. If she had 3 kids, she stayed at home, took maternity leave and all of that. And then maybe her records may not even be good. God forbid she has a child that has some health challenges.
Mm.
Then she decides, I only want to do part-time. I'm only going to do 1 day a week or 2 days a week or 3 days a week. Do you know how that impacts on her ability to earn a living, how that impacts on her pension in the future when she retires? So there are challenges for us.
Yeah.
And the earlier we recognize it, now I'm kind of diverting my attention even to the younger generation, because I got to a point where I said to myself, if I knew what I now know in my 20s, I could have done things differently. Now, talk to an average 18, 20-year-old, talk to them about savings or pension or investment. They don't want to know. But that's the best age to start making those savings and investments, because you don't know what's going to happen in future. You don't know whether you're going to be laid off work. You don't know whether you're going to have a child that requires some health challenges. And as a parent, you want to stay home with your child. You don't know all of those things. So there are challenges. And women, People think that women talk a lot, but we don't talk enough.
Oh.
What I mean by that is this. We might meet with our girlies and we'll say, oh, how are you? Oh, this, that. When I use myself as an example. I, like I said about my situation, for 5 years, nobody knew I was divorced. When I say nobody, only my immediate family. And even my immediate family, guess who told my sisters? My ex. My ex told my sisters, we're close. We're very, very close. We're like triplets kind of thing. They wouldn't like it if I said that. Because I'm the last girl.
Yeah.
You know, as close as we are, they didn't hear it from me. They heard it from my ex. The only person I told was my mom, because I felt like I owed it to her for it to come from me. That's the only person I told with my own lips. So when I say we don't talk enough, even now I realize I belong to a small group in my church. We call them life groups.
Okay.
And I talk a lot. They say I talk a lot.
But you don't talk enough.
But I don't talk about the things that matter to me. Okay. I can share a scripture. I can say, oh yeah, let's pray and bloom, 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 bloom. But when I am in need, you won't hear me say nothing. When I need someone to pray with me, I don't bring it up just like that. So
why is that?
It's conditioning. And I'm kind of breaking out of it now. It is conditioning. That culture of silence, that culture of secrecy, and even in the circles of faith, we kind of, which is wrong. I'm saying it now, it's wrong. We kind of think that, oh, I shouldn't be the one in need. Who said you shouldn't be? If you're in need, you're in need.
You always think you should be the one helping others.
If we say we're a family, you shouldn't feel ashamed or guilty to let your family know that you need them at that particular time. You can't just be, and women, we are wired to do things for other people. We do for our children, we do for our husband, we do. And before we know it, we've forgotten all about ourselves. I cannot tell you the number of times my 20-something-year-old daughter has said to me, Mommy, you don't do enough for yourself. And I'm like, Egbami. But is she right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
you're calling on
you said something.
You're calling on women. Yes.
You said something very briefly about not having the energy. You may have the time, not having the energy. And that brings me to well-being. A lot of us also don't look after our health. We're just rushing around. Oh, my daughter, my children, my husband, my this, my that. And I guess the fathers do it as well. I got to put food on the table. I got to be the protector and the provider and the this and the that. And sometimes we neglect our own self. That's why a colleague of mine that we went to university together, some people saw him like a week before, and just all of a sudden, he was gone. It was gone. It was shocking. It was shocking to the point that people started asking questions. What happened? Spiking was it blood sugar or blood pressure or whatever? He drove himself to the clinic. While he was being attended to, test, he slumped and it was all over. Just like that.
What a shame.
I mean, we haven't gotten over it on our alumni platform. We're like, this can be real. Is this some kind of nightmare? Because we don't take care of our health enough. We need to do those things where we need to exercise, because you might have time. You know, I've seen a couple of videos when, you know, there's one elderly couple. They are in, I think, Italy for the first time, going on those canoes and stuff. They're elderly, retired, and all of that, and they are so tired, or maybe they are sleeping. They can't even enjoy the view. But that's the only time they had. Some of us, during our working lives, we don't think about going on holiday. We
Absolutely.
we don't do
Absolutely.
enough in terms of recreation. We're just doing go, 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 go. You can't, you don't drive a car like that. You don't do
Yeah.
that to your car.
Yeah.
Why would you do it to your body? We take our car for servicing, we do MOT, insurance, we wash and pamper the car. Maybe not me. I know some men, they treat their cars better than their wife. No, I'm not saying anything.
Oh,
you know,
la.
but when it comes to our own body, we think we can just go on autopilot. Nah.
Okay.
You have just this one body. So we need to look
Yes.
after ourselves as well.
Yes. Tola, we can go on and on. I know you're really passionate. I mean, about these things. And I'm hoping that we probably would have another time like this. But before we go, Tola, if you were to sit with this, I ask everybody that comes on the show, if you were today to sit with three people, leaders or communicators, effective speakers, and you would have lunch or dinner with them, give me three names that you would love to absolutely have lunch or dinner, maybe even breakfast with.
John C. Maxwell.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why. I knew you were going to say
No
that. Yeah, that's
surprises
one.
there. Yeah, John C. Maxwell. I will go for Tony Robbins.
Okay.
And then I will go for, what's his name now? Oh gosh, brain fog. I know who I want to talk about. He's a Black guy. He's into inspirational and motivational speaking. I can picture him, but the name is not coming to me right now.
I thought you were going to give me a woman. I mean, you're so passionate about women. Give me a woman.
Let me think about woman. That's the thing. There are not many women in that space. The only one I can think of right now is Oprah.
I thought about that, but I just said, let me not put it in your mouth. Let me not be the one say.
I love Oprah. Yeah. I used to watch her shows like religiously. I actually love her and I love her story.
Okay.
I love her story. I what's the word? I resonate with people's story more
Hmm.
than the trappings of wealth and all of that stuff.
Sure.
Stories get me. So when I said John C. Maxwell, because that guy has dedicated his life to leadership. When you talk about leadership anywhere in the world, if you don't mention John C. Maxwell, yeah, then there's something really, really wrong. So I've learned a lot from him, and
Hmm.
to have that opportunity to sit down and have a meal with him and be able to ask him any questions whatsoever, that would be amazing. So
But I guarantee you, if you have a meal with John C. Maxwell today, he's going to ask you more questions that you're going to ask him, because he's a master at asking good questions.
and that would be fantastic, because that would also help me to kind of, every coach needs a coach kind of
Yeah.
thing. Every mentor needs a mentor. So somebody taking me through that process for me to be able to dig into my subconscious and bring up some of those things. I believe that if I ever had that experience, it would be amazing. And if I had to pay money to do that, I would definitely do that.
Oh,
So yeah, not
fabulous.
enough women in the public speaking or leadership coaching. To be honest, I can't think of any other woman that I would say that I wanted to do that with, apart from Oprah. And
Okay.
yeah.
And I'm sure that this question today will probably push you to now focus more on, can I find women in this space and maybe begin to connect with them? Because it's truth. You see all the motivational speakers and all of that. The next thing you're going to see, or public speakers, that's going to come to your mind as men. But I believe there are lots of women out there. Tola, this is what we've got less than 2 minutes. If people want to connect with you, you've got an incredibly beautiful story. We've not had time to really explore everything we would have loved to explore. And you've gone from the financial space, talked about your personal life, how you raised your daughter, been in an abusive relationship, got out, raised yourself, helped other people. There's a whole lot people that would resonate, if not with every part of your story, maybe some parts? How do they get across to you and really benefit from your services?
Thank you very much for that. So the main link that people can use to find out about what I'm doing and how to connect with me on social media and all that is Linktree. So Linktree/Coach Tola. And everywhere on social media, my handle is Coach Tola. So
Okay.
of course, I'm not present on all social media, but the ones I'm present on, LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, it's Coach Tola. So that's the way to connect with me. Linktree/Coach Tola, and that gives a lowdown of all the things I'm doing, my programs, my products, my social media handles, and all of that. Yeah.
Okay. And we're fine to also have the link so we can put it alongside the description for this
Yeah.
video for those who can go on YouTube to find this video on our channel, Stallone-Obaraemi Samuel, and find the video. You see this Tola's link, the description, and then you can connect with and benefit from my wealth of knowledge, both in finance, life, and the digital space. Tola, thank you so very much. We will bring you back eventually because you have a lot. I can see you're so passionate. You keep going on and on, but unfortunately, we've got limited time. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And the name I was trying to remember, that is Les Brown.
Ow! You got to be hungry. Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I love
yes.
him. I love him.
He's a
Yeah.
fascinating speaker. All right. Thank you very much. And I'll talk to you later then.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Bye-bye.